you so much. Hopefully, yeah, this is working okay. I'm just going to start with a video because we are very much a place-based cooperative doing things within our geographic boundary. So I'll start with a short video and then I'll do a short presentation afterwards. Thanks.
Daylesford is the sort of major centre of Hepburn Shire. We aim to be 100% carbon neutral council. We've also had an ongoing relationship with Hepburn Wind in terms of inspiring our community to activate and move in terms of renewable energy as well.
We are a cooperative of 2,007 members. They've contributed just under $10 million, so we're 100% community owned.
We invested in Hepburn Wind about 4 or 5 years ago, partly because obviously it's a renewable energy project, but also because we thought it was a wise investment for our super fund.
Our cooperative members own the turbines, enabling people to participate in this way and own their own energy generator really helps social acceptance. Social acceptance has been an issue for wind energy across Australia.
Why are we terrorising, intimidating and destroying the lives of farmers and the value of their property?
I think with any change like this towards renewable energy, there's always the detractors. I think there's always the people that are frightened of change.
We find that for our project, most people around the community either are directly connected to it or know someone who is connected to it and can see a benefit from it, and we have overwhelming support because of that.
It's a community effort, it's owned by the locals and it's theirs. I think it's a great idea.
A lot of opposition, and to their credit, they kept going until they got it done.
Yeah, and I think anybody doing those sorts of things has a lot of opposition, and you can't work out why.
It's the case that Hepburn actually used to own its own power generating sources. We used to have our own generator in the main street of Daylesford. We used to have our own hydro station down at the lake there, and so for people it was quite an obvious step that we might be able to take back the power, so to speak, for our own energy supply.
Just in this location here, there was a micro hydro station that was about 13 kilowatts and it generated enough power for the local boathouse, some local houses and the lights around the lakes, and it used to be owned and managed by a community company. So we're really keen to see this project refurbished and also brought online so that it's connected to the grid and generating clean energy once again for the local precinct.
We've got some really great projects that sort of line up really nicely with the Hepburn Wind project. We've partnered with Hepburn Wind recently to install an EV charging station on the main street, and so Hepburn Wind will be providing 2 years worth of green juice. And we see that as a really great opportunity. It's a small piece of a puzzle that could eventually form a really great picture across the region. So whether that's an electric bus to get people around via public transport, or whether it's an e-vehicle car sharing scheme, we're really excited about what that might give birth to, and certainly we see it as a symbol of what our community is about.
We've basically built and strengthened community around an energy generator, which seems quite obtuse, but that's the real meaningful stuff that makes people passionate about the community energy movement in Australia, and I think we've really helped build that narrative and that momentum in Australia about what's possible in regards to generating your own energy and benefiting from it and having a good time with your community at the same time.
So that's our little wind farm. I'm very pleased to have been employed by the cooperative. I'm going into my 9th year at the moment, so I'm part-time with the co-op, but we get a lot done on a part-time loading. So the closest community to the wind farm at Leonards Hill is Daylesford, so we've got a population of 4,000 there, and the Hepburn Shire more broadly is 15,000. We were the first example of a net zero energy town. And now we've got a target of zero net emissions by 2025 for our whole shire. So we've got a lot of projects in the pipeline at the moment. We sell our electricity to our energy retailer Power Shop, and our operations are managed by their parent company, Meridian. They have a wind farm 40 kilometres away from ours, so we've basically bundled our 2 turbines onto the operations of their 62. We've currently got 2007 shareholders. We have a mandate of always to be above 50% local ownership, and we're 54% at the moment. 3 very part-time local staff were all women as well, so which is something I'm very proud of. And we've, apart from the equity piece we've also dabbled in small crowdfunding. When we wanted to paint the murals, a lot of it was goodwill from a famous artist, but also a lot of goodwill from the local community in regards to the paint company and other things. But we've done things like 15K on a Kickstarter when we want to do things that are a bit outside of the normal mandate of our membership. And we also really try to support other co-ops through our community fund, and have done about 7 projects that have had a focus on co-ops locally and start-up funding for co-ops. So our benefit sharing model has 4 streams. We do sponsorship. In particular, we like to make local events carbon neutral. We have an energy fund. The first project was the EV charging station. We're doing the micro hydro. We've just done 6 solar projects on community facilities in the local area. We have our community grants. We've done $102,000 back to 54 local groups over the past 6 years, and a neighbourhood program. So we've got 67 neighbours within 2.5 kilometres of the wind farm. They get a piece of equity in the wind farm. We also do cheaper power for them. So in regards to our financial arrangement, it was complicated. It wasn't easy. It took many hands and a number of years, but essentially it's a blend of community retail, investment equity, debt, grants, and a bank guarantee. So we raised $9.98 million by community members. We really tried to make it accessible, so it was $100 at the first point of investment for locals and $1,000 for non-locals. We did interesting things. I was just talking to my colleague at Beehive who also invested. She's nearby in Bendigo for $100. We did things with the local sustainability group across the Central Highlands to basically make it easier for like-minded people in all those sustainability groups to also join for a cheap price. So we did numerous campaigns during that period of time. There was a lot of engagement. We did capital raising events. We did stalls at all the farmers markets, street stalls. We did mail-outs to 6,000 residences across our shire. We did a phone call campaign and multiple wind farm tours to really kind of demystify the idea of what was about to happen in our local area. We worked with our local Bendigo bank. They provided $3.1 million in, originally it was project finance, then became a long-term debt facility. We had a 15-year term on that, but we worked with our local members when we were having some, very tough political and market conditions between 2012 and 2015, when we had the federal government really try and shut down the renewable sector. So we worked with our local members and said, what's the priority? Do you want to take a return, or would you prefer that we pay down debt? And our members let us know through surveys, but also at our AGMs for 3 years, that they wanted us to pay down debt. So we've now paid out that facility completely. We're 10 years ahead of schedule in regards to that pay down. We got a blended grant from Sustainability Victoria and Regional Development Victoria of $1.65 million. The RDV component was really because we were the first mid-scale generator to connect in the grid in the way that we did, and it was a learning experience for everyone. Powercore didn't know what they were doing, we didn't know what we were doing, and it was always going to be more expensive. Sustainability Victoria did a really smart thing with us. They helped us kind of learn as we went. So it was a 23 milestone grant. Part of that was setting up the co-op, part of it was around doing our planning permit requirements for the wind farm. And when we went to our Bendigo bank, as they didn't want the TERT to be left with 2 turbines on a hill, they weren't seen as a valid asset, as no wind farm is in Australia. We had to look elsewhere, so we were provided with a $1 million bank guarantee from Embark Australia, which is a not-for-profit, which has now been also fully paid out. So who are our investors? So some of the qualities that we see that they have is that they've got really modest return expectations. They've generally invested modest sums. So although we had it the $100 kind of access point, really if you look across the shareholdings, they're averaging about $5,000. We have, probably about 50 self-managed super funds, and we've got 3 impact investment groups in there as well. Our investors have a low appetite for risk, no appetite for capital loss. So although they've been happy to not take a dividend, not everyone's happy, but most people are happy to not take a dividend. They don't want to see a loss there. And they've been incredibly patient with us. That being said, we've also been very, very transparent about the level of risk and the struggles that we have been through over the years. And through that, they've just been incredibly supportive. And some of that has come out when we've run political campaigns to try and protect our co-op and what's happening especially on a federal government level. They have a high requirement for communication. We think we over-communicate, but whenever I test it with members, they're always asking for more. And they really love how accessible the wind farm is. So you would have seen in the video, we've done things like a camp out for 300 people out on the wind farm to really demystify that you can sleep near wind turbines. Whenever we've done the murals, we've had live painting events. We held a kind of carbon neutral conversation at the wind farm and had about 300 people last year as well. So these are some of our current projects that we're working on locally. We're doing the Hepburn Solar Bulk Buy. So we have an aim of 200 new households to have solar on their roofs over the next 6 months. It's been open for a month and we've already clicked 25% take up. So we're kind of going to stretch our ambition now. And we're doing a 100% renewable and zero net emission master plan. And the idea of that is to do something that's very bespoke, that's got a lot of local data inputs, and we work, obviously with our community to develop a transition plan that everyone has ownership of and that is socialised around the local area. So that's the project that we're doing for the next 6 months as a partner. And this is the most exciting one, which is co-locating 3 megawatts of solar underneath our 2 turbines. It will be agricultural solar because we've got very rich volcanic soil out on our farm, and that's really there to maximise our grid connection and to enhance our economies of scale because we can basically operate and manage to the same level but really ramp up our income levels. So that's the most exciting one. So learning what we've learnt, how will we do it going forward? So our existing structure can basically just birth new projects. We have a fully owned subsidiary, Leonards Hill Wind Operations, which takes care of our maintenance contracts for the wind farm. So we'll put the solar farm under that. If we wanted to put another SPV or something like that underneath the co-op umbrella, we'd just do that as well. 60% of our members surveyed last year are interested in not just reinvesting their dividends, but investing more money if we decide to do another project of scale. And we have in principle agreement from our local Bendigo Bank that we won't need a bank guarantee for future projects because we've been doing really well over the past 3 years in particular. And impact investment groups are also interested in concessional finance for our solar farm. So we'll basically take what we can get in regards to who's going to offer the best arrangement for us. But it always has to be a values match, I should say that. It has to be a values match. So some of the other things that we've learned is it was quite clunky. I should say I've learnt from Robin, vendor transfer site, not trading site. So it was clunky for members who wanted to sell and trade their shares, and we were finding it difficult. We were holding a private list and connecting sellers. We've worked with Melbourne Uni and also Share Connect to develop a vendor platform. It launched last November, and it's basically, we've had about 30 trades since then, and that's, 30 transfers, and that's really alleviating some pressure. We've had about half of those were estates, so people passing away, and potentially family members not wanting to take their shareholdings on. We've also joined as a B Corp. For us, it's an added kind of values match alongside the co-op principles. It really, they have strong environmental ethics, so that really kind of holds the environmental ethics piece for us. And we've also created an associate member classification in our rules. This is because we have, with 2,000 members, not everyone actually understood that they were becoming a member. Some of them thought that they were donating, not that they would have ongoing kind of financial arrangements with us. So some of them So they still want to stay connected. They don't want to like lose that connection, but they don't want all the kind of invites to the AGMs and various other things. Great, I'll leave it there. Thanks everyone.